Jeff is
Yeah,
actually on
stay
in
Margie.
India.
Yeah, Jeff's
I'm
bringing
at the
the
Pilgrim Center, but I'm bowing out. I'm gonna let Margie take over. Go ahead, Margie.
Okay. Well, so I sent out an email, but I guess because I wasn't one of the managers of the group, it didn't go out to everybody. So Peter and I wanted to start with a little excerpt from what Baba said about the new life, just in honor of Baba's new life, and then the song of the new life playing, and then we can read the email and then talk about it. So I'm going to start by just reading a little bit about what Baba said about the new life, and happy new life day to everybody, by the way. It's one of my favorite days of the year. So, and then Peter's going to play the video. All right. So these are Baba's words. The new life is endless, and even after my physical death, it will be kept alive by those who live the life of complete renunciation of falsehood, lies, hatred, anger, greed, and lust. And who, to accomplish all this, do no lustful actions, do no harm to anyone, do no backbiting, do not seek material possessions of power, who accept no homage, neither covet honor nor shun disgrace, and fear no one and nothing. By those who rely wholly and solely on God, and who love God purely for the sake of loving, who believe in the lovers of God and in the reality of manifestation, yet do not accept any spiritual or material reward, who do not let go of the hand of truth, and who, without being upset by calamities, bravely and wholeheartedly face all hardships with 100% cheerfulness, and give no importance to caste, creed, and religious ceremonies. This new life will live by itself eternally, even if there is no one there to live it. Okay, Baba. And then I think Peter has a quick little New Life song for us to watch.
Yes, thank you, Margie J Baba. Um, I also have like a short reading of just about the New Life song. So in 1949, um, Meher Baba gave Dr. Ghani instructions to compose a poem incorporating the chief governing principles of the New Life, such as obedience, suppression of anger, greed, and lust, truthfulness, happiness, and cheerfulness under all circumstances, etc. This poem, Baba said, would form a prayer to begin the day with and an opening song for a musical concert if and when the occasion arose. And then from the research I got, Dr. Ghani translated it originally into Hindi to English by Dr. Ghani, and then I believe from research it was Adi K. Rani who also had a role in this, and then Jamie Knoll wrote this version that Ted Judson is guesting in this YouTube video, and this is close to the version that like Dr. Ghani and Adi K. Rani wrote. So here we go.
Hear the silent words of Meher Baba. The lives of all God's lovers are in these words. If you really want to live the new life, you must renounce your false life. In this life we rely only upon God. Our will is strengthened by our oath. In joy we sing the song of hopelessness, with calamities at our throats. We do not complain over lost hopes, covet honor or shun disgrace. Backbiting is ended, we fear no one. This is the course our new life takes. Hear the silent words of Meher Baba. The lives of all God's lovers are in these words. If you really want to live the new life, you must renounce your false life. No confusion in the mind now. Goodbye to pride, anger, lust, greed, and all ties. We have no religion and no aims. The Sheikh and Brahmin are both the same. For us there is no small or great. Neither disciple, master, or godhood exists. Brotherhood is our only link, and together we enjoy our suffering. Hear the silent words of Meher Baba. The lives of all God's lovers are in these words. If you really want to live the new life, you must renounce your false life. This world or the next, hell or heaven, we are not concerned with Shaktis and cities, powers and miracles. We are no longer played with. And every false impression has been removed from our minds. We have found that we can live completely in the present time. Hear the silent words of Meher Baba. The lives of all God's lovers are in these words. If you really want to live the new life, you must renounce your false life. Lovers, heed the words of Baba. Though I'm on the same level with you, still all orders from me, good, bad, and beyond, carry out and leave the rest to God. And even if the heavens should fall, do not let go the hand of truth. Let despair destroy the garden of your life. It will grow again in contentment. Hear the silent words of Meher Baba. The lives of all God's lovers are in these words. If you really want to live the new life, you must renounce your false life. Even if your heart is cut to bits, let a smile be on your lips. For in truth from empty hands a treasure springs. Your beggarly life is the envy of kings. For God exists and true are the prophets. Every cycle has its avatar, each moment its Wali. But we are hopeless and helpless. How can we tell you what this new life is? Hear the silent words of Meher Baba. The lives of all God's lovers are in these words. If you really want to live the new life, you must renounce your false life. Hear the silent words of Meher Baba.
Jay Baba. Oh no, Peter, you're muted.
Okay, that's better.
There we go.
Technology problems. First world technology problems. Anyway, Happy New Life Day, or on the East Coast, Happy New Life Night as well. What a great, beautiful video. I also just want to give a quick little teaser for coming up in November. If any young adults ages 18 to 43 would like to come to Myrtle Beach and stay on the Meher Center, the Meher Center is going to be hosting a young adult Sahabas for young adults aged 18 to 43 from November 10th to the 13th. It's going to be a fun, long weekend. Come one, come all, young adults. And back to you, Margie.
Here I am. Peter, are you able to pull the email up on the screen?
Give me one moment. Let me work my magic technical powers, Margie. Do you have any jokes while I'm doing that?
Oh, all my jokes are Jeff's recycled jokes.
Oh, okay.
So
1 second
I'm sure you
here.
guys have heard them before.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
so I'm gonna call somebody out to read this, and I'm gonna call out Izzy, but you can decline if you want. So it's an email that I sent out. Would you be willing to read, Izzy?
Can you guys see that?
It's a little. Oh, I can kind of read it.
You
Okay.
sure? If you can't, I can do it. But if you can read it, I'd love for you to read it.
It'll get clearer.
Okay.
Oh, there we
All right. Shall I start with the?
Yeah, you can start from the October 16th.
Okay. October 16th, New Life Day, the Rainbow Bridge. J Baba all. Do you want me to read the other stuff or no?
Yep. If you
Okay.
can, as long as you're okay with it.
Yeah. Peter and I are so delighted and excited to be able to facilitate this chat. We both hold all of you so closely in our hearts, so it is a real honor. Jeff leaves some big shoes to fill. We just want to start by saying Happy Baba's New Life Day. Jeff really hoped we would have a conversation regarding the young people's life in Baba. We thought, what an amazing day to pay homage to Baba's new life. We truly feel that all of us are living the new life every day. But unlike many of you, we, the young people, don't have 40 years with the beloved under our belts, and very few of us have met the manadali. Everything that connects us to Baba comes from the heart connection he blessed us with. Baba said this new life will live by itself eternally, even if there is no one there to live it. It is so deeply rooted in him. We are called to forge our connections with Baba out in the world by making him our constant companion. How do you do this in your life? We wholeheartedly feel there is no difference between the older and younger generations besides the period of time in which we were born. There is a supposed separation made between age groups, but we are living parallel paths. We are searching for a deeper oneness with him within ourselves. Is this how Baba brings us all together? Is this separation actually there, or is it us? Is this us trying to keep Baba for ourselves? We, the young people, want to assure everyone in the older generation that we are as radical in our love for Baba as you all were and still are. After all, he is the King of Hearts. Age is not an exception to that. The main differentiation,
Get up.
Yes, differentiation is that everything we do in our relationships with Baba is new and uncharted, hence always living what I call to be the new life. Is this how Baba's new life is meant to manifest? How does it manifest in yours? Do you feel the history is relevant, or is Baba an ever-present force that cannot be limited to the past of his lives? Are we the continuation of ever-changing living legacy of love? Many of us young ones were sent to the youth Sahavas not necessarily seeking and stumbled upon his love. Is there an unsaid jealousy that we didn't have to reach that point of desperation that you all did in your search? Most of us were dropped off at the youth Sahavas against our will and glanced into our glowing reflections in the mirror of love. Is there a feeling that we may not feel the same about Baba as the ones who longed for God consciously in the life because we were born into it? Therefore, it may not mean the same. Are we limiting ourselves for each other's insights and connection because we feel one's love is greater than the other's? We know both sides of the coin. The younger generation doesn't feel heard because there is this notion put upon us questioning how we could know anything about spirituality if we were so young. Can God's love be limited to our age, or is an endless recurrence recurrence spread thoughtful lifetime throughout lifetimes. We have heard the longing of our older generations to share their stories from a plethora of life experience with the beloved. Perhaps we are here to build the rainbow bridge. Can we bring our love together to help each other get closer to him? After all, we are one. We are all one. We are all him. Are we merely carrying out the dance of Maya by claiming that there is a separation? Are we only hindering the oneness we all crave by creating separation between ourselves? There is no age in the spiritual game. Is this separation inevitable? Should we just shatter the idea of separation between ages and all come together? After all, aren't we all determined to be his? In his love, Margie and Peter.
Thank you, Izzy.
Welcome.
Well, does anybody have anything that they would like to share about that topic, or that comes to mind, or that they want to? I mean, we only have 3 young people here, I guess, Izzy, Peter, and myself. But I just know from my perspective, I've watched this happen so much that there's a divide. But when I look at the divide, I feel like we're saying the same things. It's just the connection is different. And I always think about, the mandali, how they probably thought all of you guys were crazy. And then they came here and embraced all of you guys, and how we have to, like, you guys have to do that with us. And then we're going to have to do that with the next generation, because we're always just, building on relationship to him.
It's a duty.
Mm-hmm.
It's beyond that. It's a duty. It's an expectation. And I commend you young people for reaching out like this and asking about experiences, because these are the stories, if you hear them right from the mouth of the person telling them, there's no way to turn them into archetypes, because you're hearing the actual factual relationship and experiences. So it doesn't become mythology as easily as it could, because this avatar in this age gave us more words, more photographs, more stories, more intimacy with just regular people going, walking the planet, than any other avatar ever. We've got paintings, we've got the mythology and the stories and that kind of thing. But so I just like you're reaching out to us, I can tell you as a 72-year-old that I need youth in my life for hope, because you're the new humanity. You're going to usher that in. You're the midwives of all of it. So I bow to your love for Baba and your outreach.
I think Baba does this thing where he has to sort of create this separation, and it's on us to destroy it. And I think myself personally I've been in this weird situation where I've kind of been on both sides. For some reason, Baba's always put me in this position, and what I always see from my perspective is when I talk to the older generation, which I've always gotten along with really, really, really well, they don't understand the younger generation. And it's almost like what I feel is like you guys found Baba after years of longing, and we, the younger generation, we didn't even necessarily long. We were, I was born into it, or Izzy can probably say this too. She just got dropped off at Usahabas, and Baba got her. And I think if we all kind of came together and were understanding of, the youth are young and rebellious and, want to do their own thing. And then also from the younger perspective, that we can learn so much from you guys, and the love the mandali gave you guys, we can bring that into our next generation.
Can I say something, or I don't want to hog if anybody else wants to say anything, but
no, go ahead.
I'm
please.
feeling like a conversation with you right now, because you're bringing up really important items.
Yeah.
And considerations and concerns and questions. And I would like to ask you, all you young people, just like Erich and the mandali used to ask us, is who were you last life? Don't think that you're any different than us, because who knows, we're all older now, and you came to him without what we had or what we experienced. So who knows who you were? And it doesn't matter. What matters is right now, how are you loving and obeying him? That's all that matters. But don't ever think that anyone is bigger, better, higher, lower, or whatever than where you are, because you're right where he wants you, number one. And number two, okay, my chemo brains. And this was the most important thing I wanted to say. Oh, shoot. It'll come to me. I apologize. It's chemotherapy and it's still affecting I lose my train of thought. Darn it, it'll come back to me.
That's okay.
I apologize.
So just something that I wanted to kind of mention really quickly is, so Peter and I have both been involved with the USAHAVAs and working on the center. And I think we have kind of we're this transition. I mean, I'm younger, but I've always kind of I've hung out with older people. And so we have been this like transition for these younger people like Izzy, who read the email, to see their life with Baba. And I mean, I can't speak for Peter, but I can speak for myself that even in my life with Baba, where I feel like I've grown so close to him, and since I was a kid, I've been on fire with love for Baba. I was watching these young souls at the USAHAVAs and thinking to myself, oh my goodness, I'm a spiritual preschooler. Like the souls that are coming in there. I remember I was talking to this one camper and I was talking to her about her relationship with Baba, and she just looks at me like almost like I was stupid. And she was like, no, Baba's everywhere. Like, he's in the leaves. Can't you see? And I remember being like, wow, this is a whole other level. And so even at my age, you know, I'm young. The younger generation is like teaching me stuff that I never could have imagined. And even Izzy, like the stuff that she shared at USAHAVAs, which I hope you will share at some point, Izzy. But yeah. Oh, Meher, would you share?
Yeah, I'd like to say something. I know you all some may like it, some may not like it. I really feel that it's so good that youngsters are taking interest in coming into Baba's fold. Otherwise, some people who are old, they'll say, okay, we'll do it in our own way. But I'm so happy the way you all are doing things. Really good. I really appreciate it. Really, really appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'm from Bombay, India. I'll tell you that. I'm from Bombay.
Oh, let's hear it, Tony. What you got?
God help me, I raised my hand and I'm not sure. First thing I'm going to say is that I was 16 and a half when Baba came to me, and I was 17 and a half when I came to Baba. And so as far as age goes, that's my moment. and I think Baba is so intimately present with each one of us that the question of age only comes up in terms of, well, what everybody goes through. You're at a certain age, you focus on certain issues, a different age, different issues, bodily things, and yes, social stuff. So people that grew up with the same points of reference that you do. But with Baba, it's the infinite now. And it's your beloved calling you to love him and loving you. And it's regardless of age or place or anything. And so I think it's just the most wonderful thing. I mean, when I play with kids, I'm a kid because there's Baba in that kid, and when I'm with, people my age or older, I'm there because Baba is in us all. The great line from the American arty that was popular when I came to Baba was, you are the one who assumes every role. And it's like, yeah. And we have our challenges, and they're unique to each one of us. I don't think it could have to do with age if that's what your issue may be. But we've got specific things that Baba takes us through, and it changes from time to time, and it certainly changes from person to person. And I think age is just one of those factors that gets thrown into the mix, but it's not determinative, having said a word like determinative, I think I want to step out of this now.
All right.
Hey,
Thank you,
Bob.
Tony. Thank you, Tony. And next we have Peter Salamoski. Go for it, Peter.
Okay, you were close. Yeah, hi everybody. I have a story here. It's from the Real Treasure. It says Baba still speaks. It's Erich. Part of it is Erich's experience in a new life. It kind of taps on it. Could I read it? A couple pages.
Yeah.
Is that cool?
Please.
All right. All right. This is volume 4. This is Baba still speaks. In 1952, and I have a little note here, Erich's story. In 1952, when Baba was still in a new life, he started making plans to tour the West. Erich expressed his inability to accompany Baba to the West because of his broken health from the strenuous work of contacting musts with Baba under trying circumstances during the new life. He pleaded with Baba, begging him to be excused because he was terribly fatigued and broken in health and would only be a burden to Baba. Baba was very much displeased and ordered Erich to leave him. However, Baba later forgave him, but asked him to go on a tour of India along with Pendu to share his message of love and truth with his lovers there. While narrating this episode, Erich would pause at this point, giving a deep sigh and comment. We had to face 100 times more harassment on such tours, and I wish that I had accompanied Baba, which would have been less strenuous. Erich continued. Anyway, when Baba asked me to do this, I said to him, "But Baba, what message should I give them? I have no spiritual knowledge, nor the experience of the truth. So what should I say to them?" Baba said to me, "You've been with me for so many years. You have accompanied me on my tours and travels and been a companion through some of the most important work that I have done. Talk about that. Talk about what you saw and heard to my lovers." I protested, "But Baba, I am not a speaker. I have never spoken before large crowds of people and have no experience of it." Baba said to me, "Who says you will be speaking? It will be I who will be speaking through you. Remember that and do not forget it." Baba then said to me, "Before you begin to talk, invite me by saying, 'Baba, now talk with your lovers. Do this and I will do the rest.'" Erich continued. However, I still had one more doubt. At that point in time, I did not have conviction of Baba's divinity, even though I had been with him for so many years. When Baba said he is the Avatar, the Ancient One, the Lord of the Universe, my mind would start working and question, is that so? How can it be? You see, he was so completely human with us that it was difficult for me to accept him with that conviction. Now Baba wanted me to tour the country. I was supposed to address large crowds of lovers and proclaim Baba's divinity and share his message of love and truth. I felt uneasy and could not get myself to do this. How could I address a large crowd of his lovers and say that Baba is God when I myself had no conviction? Even here, Baba helped me. Knowing the doubts and conflicts of my mind, Baba told me, while addressing the crowds, while proclaiming my divinity, do not say that Baba is God. Baba is the Avatar. Then what will you say and how will you say it? Baba himself then said, say that Baba says that he is God. Baba says that he is the avatar, the ancient one. Even here, Baba rescued me from my predicament by showing me the correct way. Consequently, we toured India, and believe me, his lovers harassed us much more than he did. There was absolutely no rest for us because they would never leave us alone. We barely got a few hours of sleep, and often some lovers would wake us up from our sleep just because they had a doubt and needed some clarification about a particular story we had said earlier. We had to plead with them to let us sleep. Erich narrated the story often in the hall, and on one occasion, a pilgrim asked Erich, while addressing his lovers, did you really feel that it was Baba speaking through you? Erich replied, yes, I did. He did keep his word, as he always does. The pilgrim questioned him further. Do you still feel that Baba talks through you at times? Erich replied, yes, I do. The pilgrim questioned further. When was the last time that Baba talked through you and you felt that it was him talking? Without batting an eyelid, came Erich's spontaneous reply. I feel him talking through me every moment, including these very words which are flowing out from my mouth are nothing but him speaking. Such was Erich's conviction and experience, which he shared with us. When Erich finished saying this, everyone in Manadali Hall were completely silent, experiencing and enjoying Baba's presence, which was flowing from him.
Jai Baba, thank you.
All right, next up we have Izzy. Thank you, Peter. Very well said. Thanks for reading that. It's awesome. Izzy.
Hello. I wanted to share my youth service experience. So the whole how it started, I guess, before I knew what it was. I was at this birthday party, and it was, if you guys know them, you might know them, Vanessa and Laurence, and like their whole family. Anyways, but it was brought up, and someone was asking me if I was going, and I was like, I don't know what that is. And my mom was like, yeah, you're going, before like anything was said. And I was like, what? Anyways, and then Vanessa was like, I'll talk to somebody. And this is like 3 days before youth service is happening. So like the date to like sign up was like all the way in April, and it's like July now, but at that time. Anyways, and I was like, I don't want to go. I don't know what this is. Anyway, but a day later, Vanessa calls my mom and said something like, yeah, they said you can come. You just need to fill out this thing. I think it was a form or something. So I did that. And then I have like really high anxiety. So I was like really, really anxious. And I did not want to go. But my mom drove me there, and I cried a little bit. But I went, and everyone was very welcoming the first day. And by the second day, all my anxiety was gone, and it was a very nice feeling. And I met many friends, and like I knew of Baba before, but not really. And I was like, this feels very right, and I want to continue my relationship between Baba and I. Anyway, but Dooney we had Dooney, and I like bawled my eyes out. Like I cry, but I don't cry that much. And I cried so much. And I just felt so much love. And I don't know. And I made lots of friends, and I didn't have anxiety at all for like 2 months after Youth Sahavas, which is crazy because I haven't like felt that in a really long time. Anyway, but yeah, now I am going to India in November with Margie because she was my counselor and we became like friends, and now she's like an older sister figure, and that's everything's really great. Anyway, Jay Baba for that.
Jay Baba, Izzy, thank you so much for sharing.
Jay Bob, Izzy, thank you. Love it. You and Margie are gonna have the best trip to India. So happy you guys are going.
You're
Um,
representing the youngins.
yeah, way to represent. I'll go if I can. Thank you. Um, so like I'm 41, so I know I'm not old as far as like other generations in the pop world, but I know I'm not like young like in my 20s, but I would say personally I feel more connected to 20-year-olds and like 30-year-olds and like I would say my generation than I do like the older generation who are in their like 60s, 70s, 80s. I did grow up in a Baba family, so it's always come natural to me. I did go to India 3 times. My first time was 88, and of course I was 7 years old then. But and I got to meet some Manzali and whatnot, and then I went again in 2000, and some more were living as well, but some had already passed away. But of course, there definitely, I feel personally, there definitely is a divide in the Bible world, but even in churches, I'm sure there's a divide as well because of ages. Um, and I just love Baba through like trying to stay happy and cheerful. Easier said than done. Through music, art, sometimes readings. I would say personally for me, more intellectual stuff like is not my path towards Baba, but I like more like movies, stories, and hopefully one day the divide in the Baba world and whatnot will fade. I think we definitely need more discussions in person and uh, on Zoom, um, but that's how I personally feel. All right, let's go to Michelle, who has her hand up. Michelle from Chicago.
Hello, Jay Baba. Well, I'm in a different generation that most people are. I came to Baba in I would say officially 1990, but I'm 10 years younger than most of everyone. So I always kind of felt a little out of place. But anyway, but that I want to talk about when I became a mom, I felt it was so important that Aaron, Adi was immersed in Baba, and that we took him to the center almost every summer. And he would hang out with Uncle Jeff and Margie, and he grew up with all of you. And I know as recently this last Yusahavas, he started talking about the power of Baba's room. And that really touched me because I said to him, I've always conveyed to him, this is your relationship with Baba, and I can't tell you if he's your master or God. All I can be is the example. And I guess that's all I really wanted to say. Oh, and when we went to Marazad, when he was 8, we went there in 2011. And when he walked away, it's like, who is this child? I have no idea, but he walked around Marazai like he knew the way. And I think that it is important what you're doing and bringing the youth into the community with a greater voice. And I'm really proud of you, Marty. And Peter, thank you very much.
I just have to say, Aaron was like one. So I mean, I was a counselor, so I was very involved with the campers this year. and the love that just poured out of, it felt like when you hugged Aaron, he just was like this container of love for all the campers. And I think it was his last year this year. And he
Yeah.
was somebody that people would go to talk about Baba and ask questions about Baba. And I think it just shows like when you let our relationships with Baba blossom on our own, we become, the youth become these vessels of love because we're able to explore our own experience with Baba. Because Aaron is like, he's like, I just think of the word like big bear, like he's just this Baba bear. All the kids, I mean, yeah, all the kids just were totally enamored with, because he was so confident. And I remember I did a couple discussion groups that with him, and it was like he was a counselor running the discussion group. And so it's beautiful to watch that.
Yeah, he's very excited about being a worker waller next year, so he can become a counselor soon. That's his, yeah. He was here yesterday.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I have one thing to add. When love comes knocking at your door, it doesn't matter what age you are, you answer the door.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Michelle. All right, and we have Bob Yeager next. Bob.
Yes, hello, Jay Baba. Yeah,
Jay Baba.
The comment that was just made, I was about to say something very similar. You know, where it's all about love, and where that is concerned, age makes absolutely no difference. But Margie, I wanted to, I don't know, 10 or 15 minutes ago, mentioned something about sometimes feeling like you're in preschool, where Bob is concerned. And I must say that I very often feel like that myself, and I would bet that that a very high percentage of folks, even my age, would say exactly the same thing. You know, it's just starting every day trying to figure out what the next step is that he would wish one to take is, it's like, I don't know, preschool indeed. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, no, but it was, I'm telling you, watching these kids, and I think Peter, you were not this used to have us. I forgot. You came at the tail end, but
the very end. I had COVID most of that week.
Yeah.
But yeah.
These kids, even like I can say my experience with Izzy, there was one day that she was crying and I was sitting with her and I was listening, trying to be the adult, thinking to myself, I don't have anything to tell this soul because they've got it all.
I get it.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, we have Vesta again. Vesta. You're on mute, Vesta. If you want
Vesta, you're muted. Yeah.
You're still muted, Vesta.
You're still muted. You have to.
You want to click unmute? There you go.
I just gave you the secret, and I was only allowed to say it one time, so I blew it for all of you. No, the thing I forgot when I was talking is that Mayor Baba has told the Mandali over and over again that they have duties, but they are no closer to him than those who don't even know him. That God is equidistant to everybody. And I thought that was a very profound statement because it gave me comfort thinking in 700 years, I may have a lifetime where I don't know Baba as the avatar. I may love God, but I won't have the intimacy that I had this lifetime. And so I kept telling myself it didn't matter who I was this lifetime, no matter what lifetimes I had in the future until I was brought to his feet, that I was no further away or nor closer than anyone else to God. And that kind of keeps you a little more with a little bit of humility spiritually, because sometimes things happen or you have a realization, you think, holy mackerel, where did that come from? Oh, that's a big revelation. It's not. In the light of eternity, it's nothing because we know everything anyway. So these are just little, cherries in the Manhattan that he serves up to us every now and then. So that was, I just wanted to point out that that the older people are no closer than the younger people. And like the Mandali used to look at us and say, who were you? You know, you come to us already knowing God, having never met him or seen him. And we lived with God, but treated the man so we couldn't think of him as God. We had to think of the man we were serving and what was our duty to the body that held the avatar. But they said they couldn't sit around thinking about things because they wouldn't have been able to do their duty. Their minds would have just been blown knowing what they were doing. So I kept telling myself, thinking that I'm putting it in there somewhere so that in future lifetimes, hopefully I won't think that I'm so far away from God that I have no connection. So I think I take comfort in what the Mandali always said, that now that that connection is there, it'll never die. You can walk away from him, he will never walk away from you. So that was the one thing. And then the other thing, speaking of the new life, one day Mani always used to tell us, and she used to put her finger right up to our nose. She said, pay attention, because sometimes you'd be walking and she could tell you just had your head in the clouds or something. And so I'd come back, I'd be walking across the garden and I'd walk up into the house to go have tea, or maybe it was lunchtime, something like that. And Mani was standing there and she said, what were you thinking? And I said, oh, I don't know. I was just like looking around. She said, yeah, but do you understand that Baba's talking to you all the time and you had your fingers in your ears? And I was thinking, did I miss something? So I turned around, I was looking around like, did I miss something? And she said, don't you know? Pay attention. Why do I tell you pay attention? You Westerners, we have to keep telling you, pay attention. And I said, okay, Mani, I'll bite, you know? So she says, you know, you walked by that tree and the wind came and all those leaves came down. And she said, that was Baba talking to you. What was he telling you? And I'm like 24 years old. How old is Izzy?
She's go ahead, Izzy.
17, I think.
17.
Right?
Okay, 17. How old are you, Margie, if you don't mind? It's
24.
24. Okay, I was your age. So you can fit right into what I'm saying right now, because I was your age when this happened. So I looked at Mani and I said, the leaves falling from the tree and Baba's talking? She said, yes. Don't you understand? He's showing you that from the roots deep in the earth comes this tree. And it was the tree by Mandali Hall. When you walk out, it's that first big tree at the oval. You know the one I'm talking about?
Yep.
Okay. So she said, from deep in that dirt, which people think is just dirt, comes this beautiful tree. And the earth is the source of where this tree grows. It's bearing its roots deep into the earth, deep into the soil for all the nutrients it needs to build a beautiful big trunk, to have all these branches. And these branches have little twigs, and on these little twigs are leaves. All of those are the creation from that dirt, from that tree. And Baba was showing you not to worry about anything, because even when the leaf, which is produced from this beautiful creation of his, this leaf falling to the earth and composting into the ground back to the source, he was showing you that and you missed it because you weren't paying attention. So that they taught by example, but they also taught by how they were trained by Baba, because he was always telling them, pay attention. Why do you think he was asking, what are you thinking? What did you see? What did you do? And I learned from that whenever I'm at a moral, or I don't know, when I'm having to decide something that has repercussions and good or bad or whatever you want to put onto it, and you can't figure out which path to take when you come to the fork in the road, she always would say to me, don't worry, even if you take the wrong fork, he'll take you back and then put you on the right one. But pay attention even on the wrong track, because you're going to learn things not to do the next time. But the other interesting thing about that was, she said, Baba empowered the prayer of repentance. And so if you want to live the new life, and if you want to know all there is to know about Baba, say the prayer of repentance, even if it's just by rote or routine, or you don't mean it, or you get lost, or your mind wanders, or all of a sudden, you know, you're talking about, you are the ancient one. Oh God, I forgot to get milk. You know, doesn't matter. Go back to it and do it, or start from the beginning again. Because Baba in Mandali Hall empowered that for all of us. The story that I'm sure most of you know is that Erich would have to read out the prayer of repentance for Baba. And after he broke his hip, it was so painful for Baba to stand, and he would stand with his hands folded while the Parvartigar prayer was read to him. And day after day, he'd stand and he'd grimace. And the men Mandali, one on each side of him, holding him up, and they could feel him bearing down in the pain. And so day after day, Erich started reading the prayer faster, faster, and faster. And one day he was like, "Oh, Parvartigar, the preserve check girl, you are that beginning with that, and I'm doing it." Baba clapped. "What are you doing?" he said. Erich says, "I'm reading the prayer like you said." "No, why are you reading? You sound like a train going down the track." He says, "What is the matter with you? How were you raised? This prayer that you're saying in front of the avatar, in front of me, is being empowered for everyone who's going to come after you, who's ever going to say the prayer of the Parvartigar prayer. Start at the beginning and read it properly." And it killed Erich. And the Mandalis, like Pendu, I think Pendu was on one side, and it might have been Aluva on the other side, maybe Bao, it doesn't matter. But one night on the men's side, they were talking about that was such a horrific thing, because they had to stand, and if Erich started speeding up, Baba would drop his arms like this and slow him down. And so sometimes if he started speeding up to get through it, Baba would stop him and have him go back to the beginning again. So it was torture for them. But she always said that the 5 things that you need to know if you want to become a lover of Baba is the Parvartigar prayer, the prayer of repentance, because he lays it all out there. That's all you need, basically, to traverse the path. The song of the new life, she said, was critical. And even if you can't live the new life all the time, because you're not supposed to lie, you're not supposed to, feel like, oh my God, what is happening to me? You're supposed to embrace a garden full of weeds. But she said, the song of the new life is so hard, but you can at least several times during the day put your foot into it, one of your feet, eventually 2 feet. And Rick Chapman years later once said to me, "Vesta, just put your big toe into the new life and you'll get your answer," because I was calling him about something I was needing some guidance on. So there was that. And then she said, "My wish," because my wish to my lovers is what his wish is for us. But she said, the most important thing you need to stay true to the new life is to understand and read and memorize his last warning about people standing between you and your beloved, having more spiritual authority. I mean, the Mandali never did that. That was a beautiful thing that they did for all of us that came in the early years, is that they never acted like we needed them. I always felt, and it was a bizarre sense, that they needed us, because they said by talking about Baba and asking questions about the new life, which was a period that was so important in this avatarhood, that Baba said, even if there's no one to live it, it'll go on forever. So that's the simplicity of spirituality, without all the barking dogs in our head that need bones tossed to them just to quiet them down. So there was that. One toe in, pay attention, equidistant, and the 5 things that Mani said. But they always emphasized that the new life was critical and that we should all know about the new life. Anyway, Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Thank you so much.
And next up we have Marian. Good evening, Marian.
Hi, thank you everyone. I'm Marian Lewis. I live in New York City. and I don't know any young Baba followers, and never been to the center when there's youth sahavas. And so I'm adding a lot of ands, no buts, all ands. I've had the grace here of having a membership in a private senior center. I'm a very senior. And in this center is now with COVID, we've had a lot of breaks because we haven't been able to get together. But for decades, I've been involved, and it's devoted to intergenerational relationships. So I have every year for quite a few years, four sixth graders come to my home with the teacher, whatever, to spend an hour with me. We'd paint, draw, whatever, be together. And then when at the center itself, we had conversation groups where the seniors interspersed with the maybe high school kids. They'd choose a topic and we would talk. And the intention was hearing each other. So with that, I always remembered what Baba said, and I'm paraphrasing, that sometimes it's not appropriate to speak his name or talk about him, but to live him and listen. And that I'm here to balance my head and my heart, with my heart leading the way. That is intuition, and that is God. So it behooves me, when I've been in all these situations for years intergenerationally, to listen. And so these young people are so amazing. But they remind me, I still have a teenager in me. My haven is Central Park. I just feel so natural there. And to see the toddlers run around, and they are always breaking out away from the parents and going the opposite direction that the parents want them to go. And the parents are running after them to keep them safe. And I thought, oh, I've got a toddler in me. I've got a teenager in me. So in my building here, where I live, where I've lived for 55 years, I've seen many of the children who are going to college or high school or junior high since they've been born. And I'm so touched by my relationships with many of them, because I don't impose myself on them. I feel like I need to be present with Baba in me as this person. And so many of them they'll see me and come over to me and hug me. Now, for a teenager to do that with an elder in the building, they're not just being accommodating. It's from the heart. So I have so many heart connections with young people, and I'm so grateful. And so at one where we were at the center a couple of years ago, where we were having, the kids came and they were singing for us. They were singing, and then afterwards we all socialized together. And so I was just saying Baba's name. And then one girl was talking something about something she was struggling with in school, and it just came out of me appropriately. I said, oh, this is not a self-improvement program here. That's all I said. She bent over and looked closer at me. And I said, oh, yes, you're already who you've always been, always will be, and always have been. You're it now, period. And I knew Baba was guiding me. And she leaned even closer to hear more, her eyes kind of glazing over. And I said, yes, now you're going to have a lot of challenges peeling off the layers to be who you already are. And you need a lot of support for that. And I just kept adding a lot of ands. And it was so beautiful, my connections with these young people. So my commitment here is to help change an educational system that lags behind these children and these young people and teenagers who are wired for the fifth dimension of spirit having the human experience, rather than humans trying to improve themselves to be more spiritual. And I'm seeing that these young people, and what I've read from neuropsychologists, are even really wired for that. So we're having a lot of conflicts because they have to function in the third dimensional world, and they're geared toward the fifth dimension of spirit having so there's many young people who are struggling with drugs and alcohol and suicide. So I am committed to addressing this in my community and in colleges and universities. So I just want to say Baba's every word and everything. And I really appreciate tonight so much in connecting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marian. All right, next up we have Rich. Good evening, Rich. You're on mute, Rich. If you want to unmute yourself. There you go.
Finally. Well, I kept trying to keep track of some of my thoughts, but the first part of my story is really short. I was like 19 years old. I was way confused, and I didn't know what I was doing in life at all, really. And Baba found me, and there was a friend. I had a friendship with the guy, so it's sort of like together. We heard from Rick Chapman and Alan Cohen at a college campus, don't do drugs, blah, blah, blah. But Baba found me, and then he took me on a journey. But in any case, I can't imagine what it's like to be young now. I've actually tried to talk to people about this, but I don't know what the world is to young people now. I don't have a clue. I'm too old. But in terms of Baba, to me, it's whatever sanskars you bring in, you still have to wade through them. And at a young age, they're denser, they're heavier, they're full of energy. So you still have to wade through them as you go, depending upon how advanced you are, or whoever you are. But my real experience of Baba has unfolded in an up and down fashion. And as I'm getting older now, the sanskars are thinning out. So it's easier now for me to say, I can kind of remember Baba almost all the time now, but that's just remembering him. Experiencing Baba is still his grace. That's all it is for me. But the experience of whatever your dimensions your life have, well, let me put this very directly. You are Meher Baba, and you take the form of Margie and Izzy and Peter and Alan and Patty and Rich and Bob and, Vesta. So it's really experiencing Baba as yourself, as your real self. To me, that's what it's really about. And I think it takes time, especially when you're young. Just move through that, you don't sail across that ocean, But the thing about that Vesta was saying, so true, Baba just never leaves you. He just never leaves you. Thank you.
Thank you. Wow.
Thank you. We have Joshua joining us from Australia.
Yeah, I feel
Welcome,
like the young people when they
Joshua.
come, it's like when they throw a fish into a feeding cage and everyone's like, "Oh, get the young people!"
Is that me? Yes. Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm young. This is a chat about young people? Is that what I'm hearing? Sorry, I joined late. I was asleep. So in one
No,
sense,
that's okay.
in
It's
the beyond
it's like,
beyond.
yeah, it's a whole topic on like bringing the generations together and kind of creating that rainbow bridge in Baba, and how we, the young people, have to connect to the older generation, and then the older generation have to connect to us because we're all trying to do the same thing.
Or in a way, it's like a web, almost like intertwining and interconnecting, sort of.
Yeah, so interesting. I was actually thinking about this morning because where I am in Sydney, Australia, I'm pretty much the only young Baba lover. And then there's also in Sydney, there's sort of like a Baba place of pilgrimage called Mayor House, which was built by Francis Brabazon, and Baba visited. And so it's sort of like, I was just thinking this morning, I was like, wow, I guess I probably have to look after that place. I guess if I don't look after it, no one else is going to look after it. So it's a whole interesting topic, definitely worthy of a lot of discussions, and not made easier by the various dysfunctions in the Baba community, in my opinion. Yes, it's interesting, very interesting. I'd say, God, yeah, I guess he knows. I guess I'm going to rely on him knowing what he's doing, because I sure as hell don't know what's going to happen with us going into the future, especially considering in the West how few Baba lovers there are. Yeah.
No, you make a really good point. There's a lot of, I know I've often thought about this myself, that I think, there is a process of kind of what you said, Rich, like waking up to Baba, and that you can't push that process in anybody. And so I almost feel like as a young person who already feels that way about Baba, I have to like hold this, and Peter probably feels the same way too, that it's like I have to take on this dutiful responsibility of being like a pillar of like steadiness so that everyone else who's of my generation, because Baba has already given me this gift of the heart, his heart and connection to him, it's not just like this amazing thing that I'm like basking in Baba's love. It's actually this duty that I have, so that when all of these other young people, they're still, and I'm watching it too, even people who are my age, they're slowly unwinding. They're realizing, oh my gosh, this is Baba. He is who he says he is. This isn't just something my parents are. And so there's this duty for us to just always be there in all of Baba's centers and his meetings, and make a force of what his younger people can do.
Well said, Margie. Love that. And I feel the same way too. I mean, and we're getting like more and more young people to center in Myrtle Beach, but at the same time, we don't have a lot of young people, and it's even hard to get young people to move to Myrtle Beach and whatnot. And hopefully one of these days. But well said. Definitely feel the same way. All right. Next up, we have Tony from New York. Tony, take it away.
Hey, Peter. So I know I already spoke before because I was responding to the note more than anything. But this is more of just what's coming up in me. I've done a lot of theater, and so I've worked with people of all ages, especially there were people much younger. I was at an off-Broadway thing, was on something heading for Broadway, and a lot of very people in their 20s who were so gifted. But everything kind of dropped off in a way in autumn of 2014, and I happened to go to hear a friend at an open mic community, and some point in this thing, and just because I knew this person, some point the guy who ran it came over to me and said, "Do you want to share something?" And I thought, okay. And I wound up very much part of this community, and we were of such a range of ages. Certainly a lot of folks in their 20s and early 30s. I got my first real introduction to rap and how pervasive it was among white people, and some of it was just horrific to me, and some of it was brilliant. And the thing is, I did the same many of the same songs. I always want my songs to be authentic, and I've sung songs that are purely Baba songs for me, and they totally got them. It may or may not have mentioned Baba's name, and I got them because what happened is, regardless of age, everyone was coming up and with their poetry, with their songs, even with comedy, they were coming up with their authenticity. And the thing is, we are all the same. And so when someone is speaking from the heart and writing from the heart, it's like you become related. You become instantly related. And this wonderful thing continued until COVID. And I'm really wary because physically I'm more susceptible to COVID because of age. So there's where age gets in the way. And I haven't been going to those things. And they didn't exist for 2 years. But I guess the point was, what was on my mind is how wonderful it would be to have that in the Baba community, where you didn't have to necessarily be writing about Baba. If you're with Baba, everything in your life is about Baba. It would be. I would love to see those barriers cut through in that way by getting to the authentic self of each one. And it reached a point where even there was a place that had a piano. Usually there was not a piano. And I have a medley. I have a version of Baba's 3 prayers. And, oh, no, I'm sorry. I didn't do that one there. But I did a song of mine called Mercy, which is I call you mercy, that is your name. That's why you came, a gentle feeling that's harder than steel. You are revealing all the love I conceal with mercy so real. They got the spirituality of it. They got exactly the heart thing of it. I never mentioned Baba's name. I didn't have to. It's already there in them. So anyway, I would love to see that if that could happen in the Baba community. It's just I'm just riffing. It would be great. I would love to connect with everyone in the same way and let them be able to connect with me in that way. Jay Baba.
Jay Baba and Tony, I love that song Mercy. I remember years ago you played that when you visited us in Strasburg, Pennsylvania. I must have been like maybe 11, 12 or whatnot, and I remember hearing that song. I love that. Love the rhythm and love the way you always sing that song. Thank you.
It was a big Baba gift, that song.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. And next up we have Patty. Good evening, Patty.
Jay Baba, everybody. This is marvelous, and I didn't really want to miss it. There's several things that are coming up for me. One is I see in all the youth, the Baba youth that I'm around, and I'm not around a lot, unfortunately. I see us. I see the us of the many, the one in the many, all of them. The enthusiasm, the freshness, the heartfelt drive that is motivating you, each one of you. I mean, it's enamoring to see this wave in you as we felt the wave in the late 60s. Because, I mean, I was brought aware of Baba with nobody else around, just a poster. And the experience happened, long story, but so I'm isolated in Eugene, Oregon, knew nothing, but the drive in my heart was alive. And that's what I see happening here. And what I really love is in the late 60s, we didn't have this communication skills. We've got connections happening all over now that Baba, in my opinion, has precipitated through, the alphabet board and just doing what we would think was very simple, but now is manifested out in, the cosmos is Zoom and, texting and all this stuff. So the Patty personality, is resistant in the early years to even being around Baba people, because I wasn't certain about Baba. I didn't really, it took me a couple years to get to Myrtle Beach in 71, but I hitchhiked across the United States to get there. And so the drive wasn't it wasn't like, oh, I think I'll go to Myrtle Beach and find out who God is. Seriously, that wasn't even on my agenda, but it happened. And so then you meet the Jim Myers and the Bob Browns and the Janes. And, there was a group of us that showed up, Jenny Katz, Sheila Krinsky. I mean, there were so many, Goosey from Australia. I mean, all these people show up early that were young, just like you guys, and we were 19 and, we weren't as young, we weren't raised in Bob. I mean, some people might've been raised in Baba families. I surely wasn't. And most of us that connected together in those years, to my knowledge, weren't. And to me, I see him, and I can't imagine you guys haven't been in Baba's presence or in an avataric presence. I mean, it's impossible for you to be where you are, driven from the drive of such love and such compassion and such creativity that you're not. I mean, to me, I don't see any difference. As a matter of fact, I'm actually a little envious from my own personality perspective that you have more capacity to join with each other now in the world as it is now, even though COVID came and all this stuff happened. But I don't want to, go on here. What I want to do is say, this is marvelous that the Rainbow Bridge can be built, that you can communicate with those who might look like elders. I mean, I might look like an elder, but inside I'm still you guys. I mean, I'm going to tell you that straight out, because the body is a hindrance as it gets older. And you just can't quite participate in the same way you'd like to. But if I'm at Myrtle Beach, I'll be at the ping pong table for sure. So I invite everybody in to play ping pong with me. I'm real good. I have a lot of fun at it. And and Jeff will tell you that. I just do love it. And so, and that's authentic. I mean, I can't help myself. It's like, the part that sees all of you is the part of me that is seeing me in you in the one. I mean, he's pulling it together. It's beautiful. And I applaud all of you, and I applaud that we came on all together. I just am thrilled. And I still am, I didn't have children. So, and I'm not around a lot of children. I'm around a few people in the Northwest. Jen Doan, who's actually currently at the center tonight, is a younger generation than me. She and I pal a lot. And some of the children of my generation who are Baba lovers do share with me. But it's hard for me because I'm not able to get to Myrtle Beach real easily. It's like we can't drive 2 or 3 times a year. It's a long drive. So I'm there. I haven't been there in a couple of years, and we're hoping to get there in April. But so I'm just happy as can be that we can work together and have conversations about our striving to realize that divinity and to be as authentic and real as possible, and to be an example, hopefully, after being in the presence of the mandali, like Vesta so clearly knows, they role modeled everything. So only now do I figure out that, oh my God, I could be a role model. So I have to kind of get my act together a little tighter, So anyway, so bear with all of us as we work together. All right, Jai Baba, love you all. Jai Baba.
I think there's a point that I really wanted to make about something that I've kind of seen of people of my generation versus like the older generation. And like I said, I've had a really weird upbringing. And so I was working on the center, and like I've always related to the older generation, but then been younger. So of course related to them. And what I can say is what it looks like to me is because all of you guys had to go and find Baba. Baba is within, it's this connection to the beloved, right? And what I've seen in my younger generation, or the generation that I'm in, is we see Baba in each other, because we were dropped into these bodies, and many of us were born into Baba families, and it was kind of like maybe when we were a kid we felt something, and then we were like, I don't know, my dad's pretty weird. Is this just, we have to figure that out. When I think for you guys it's very different, because there was this built up longing consciously in this life, where I think for a lot of us it's like a remembering that we have to do, and we do it through others. Because when I talk to a lot of people who are my age, what they always say is, where I feel Baba the most is when I'm in the presence of people who love him. And that's like for us, our Usahavas, or the New Year at the Myrtle Beach Center, or Amar Tithi in India. And those are the times that it almost feels like, I used to describe it, because I grew up on the center, and there were like 8 of us who lived in Myrtle Beach at that time. And all we did was play volleyball and run around the center and climb trees. And it felt like we were just in this chrysalis of Baba's love. And so I think we feel that love in other people a little bit differently than you guys might have, just because you were searching for God. At least this is my perception. And then we just felt that same love that you guys felt one-on-one in all of each other.
Yeah, I can see that. And I think that's really well spoken and well, I can see it totally. And the remembering, we're all remembering. We are all remembering, because it's the sanskaras and the impressions and all that heavy burden on all of us that we have to keep playing off, that pulls and sidetracks us off. So yes, in the company of their love, all those trips to India for most of us, and those of us who stayed there longer periods of time, those were what you're talking about at the center, the love vessel flowed freely. And it was always receptive to who we were, no matter what. But it wasn't so much our peer group at the time. I mean, it was, we were all sucking it up from the closest ones to him at the time, but it's so much that came that now we can feel it even greater as the gift it was to me. That is what happened. But it you know, it's fascinating to watch. Absolutely watch and experience. The talk for you guys.
Vesta, you're up next. Oh, you got to unmute yourself again. You got to unmute yourself.
Okay, good. You didn't hear me say a naughty word. Is there anybody else that wants to talk? I'm just trying to fill in a little bit of time. I've got a couple of things, but I can.
No, go ahead. We got Alan up next, but yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I'm piggybacking on what Tony P said when he was talking about conversing, you know, and talking. I keep reiterating over and over and over how important it is for us to talk with each other, even a phone call, one-on-one or on Zoom, or when people get together like this to chat, because it triggers memories. Mm-hmm. And it gives us opportunities to hear other people's experiences with Baba and how he speaks with them, how he guides them. And then that could trigger like, oh, wow, I see what he was doing 4 years ago when I was facing such and such. It's just real important to do that. And the other thing that, you know, how I was saying, how Monty always said to pay attention, he's talking to you everywhere. He's giving you messages. There's, I don't know if the word is a metaphor. I can't think of the right word right now, but it's like you see something, but it's got a deeper message, even though it looked like just a tree with a leaf falling. Look how she turned that into a deep, deep message, you know, of on a spiritual level. And one of the things that happened, I have two Dobermans. One is 12 and a half and one is 2 and a half. The 12 and a half-year-old's name is Persia Rose. Persia for Hafiz and the great Persian mystical poets, and a rose for offering a rose in Baba's room. So when people ask me, why did you name your dog Persia Rose? I can tell them and I can drop Baba's name, and that's all I have to do. And if they ask more questions, I can answer. But one of the stories that I wanted to tell, it's real quick. I picked her, she was born July 18th, and I picked her up on my birthday, September 18th, with my mother. And so she was only 8 weeks old at that time, and she was about that big and that tall. But when she was 10 weeks old, when I brought her home, I took her out every 2 hours. I set my alarm even through the night and would take her outside, let her piddle and poo. And that way she'd learn that all that business is done outside and you don't do it in the house. And she never made a mistake until she was about 10 weeks old. And we had just been out, and I sat down where I am now to work on my appraisals and stuff. And I looked over, and she's taking, and as Nancy Pelosi said, she's making a poo-poo on the carpet. And so I said, no, no. And I got up, and as soon as she saw me, her eyes got this big, and she rolled on her back right at my feet. And it occurred to me that she sees me as her master. She just made a boo-boo with some poo-poo. And yet she wasn't afraid to grovel at my feet and say, oh my God, I made a mistake. Please forgive me. Don't be mad at me. I'll try not to do it ever again. And the thought came to me, oh my God, that's how I should be with Baba. He sees everything. He knows everything. He knows all the poop that I throw around day in, day out, every day of my life. And he knows all the poo-poo I'm going to be throwing around in for the next 700 years, because I want him to call me. And so I'm going to try and reduce the amount of poo-poo so I can serve him next time in the physical form. But that lesson, the fact that Persia Rose at 10 weeks old made a poo-poo on the carpet, and I saw that lesson, if I wasn't paying attention, had trained my mind to think, okay, what is Baba doing with this? And I talk a lot with Paula Roper, Irene Ives, and a couple of other people, Ursula, Rick Chapman, Rustam Irani in New York. And when we're chatting and stuff, these things keep coming up. And thank goodness for Betty Lohman, because when I talk with her, she writes down the stories that come up that'll be in my book. And I would have forgotten all that stuff if it wasn't for the fact that I trained my mind to think, what am I seeing and what am I learning by this experience, and how can I translate in a way that spiritually it makes sense or is a lesson or helps me be better. So that was that. That he does speak to us all the time. Oh, and one of the things that I loved about the Mandali was they always talked about their mistakes, the times that they felt they disappointed Baba or didn't really follow his order or tried to manipulate him at times or that kind of stuff. And what they learned and how Baba, called them on the carpet for it, but it was always loving, and he never was out to humiliate them or that kind of thing. So one of the things when I'm writing my stories of being with the Mandali is talking about my own spiritual immaturity, my own ignorance, being young and trapped by the hangovers of Christianity and walking away from the church and this and that. But I learned to be a little easier on myself. And when you're a little easier on yourself, you can slide into it with a little more grace when you let all the peripheral stuff go to the wayside. So our mistakes are great teachers, and something that what people would consider a great success in the world could be a spiritual failure. And something that is a horrific failure and humiliation or whatever's going on in the world, how you handle it could be a spiritual success. So it's a way of changing the system of how you think and filter things through to exercise good judgment instead of being judgmental. And that's a hard one to learn. And I'm still trying to master it, but it's a work in progress of 5 decades. And I don't know if we ever lose that need until we're merged. So anyway, that's Tony. Thank you for stimulating that.
Thank you, Vesta. Very well said. All right, next up we have Alan. Good evening, Alan.
Hi. Good to see everybody. I haven't been on one of these in a long time. Can you hear me all right?
Yep.
Yeah, I just come back from rock climbing, and I was walking in the door. My wife was saying that there's a meeting happening of some sort of rainbow bridge, and that word sort of caught me, and I was like, what? Where? And so I looked, and yeah, I was just very intrigued, and I caught the first paragraph it was sort of the email that was sent. So I'm grateful to be here, and I was looking at Ralph's. It looks like that's Kitty. I keep my eyes keep going because I keep seeing Kitty sitting there, and I keep feeling like I miss her. And a lot of the time when I hear, what do you want to call it, older generation, people who are with the Mandali physically, and they're sharing their stories. It's like I'm hearing about old friends, and sometimes it brings me to a place of, I don't want to say grief, but it's like triumph. Like they are how magnificent it was that I'm sitting with this person who got to spend time with the Avatar, or I'm sitting with someone who sat with someone who spent all that time with the Avatar, someone like Kitty or Elizabeth, or if for example, if I'm talking with Charles, then I'm like, what is happening? Like I'm speaking to you, and I'm feeling a deep connection. and so yeah, that I just appreciate that connection, and I very much can relate to when there's times when it's internal, and I did not come to Baba um, willingly, I would say. I was sort of like very hard-headed and was not going to. There was nothing that was going to make me. Um, I was not gonna. That was not going to happen for me. You know, you could have killed me before, and luckily Baba did not kill me. But it was like, you know, some part of me died for sure. And and so I did not have anyone except my wife who was around Baba. And so slowly over the years, I've been meeting new Baba lovers, or you know, new to me. And online was during the pandemic. That was an interesting time. I grew out my Baba mustache. It was nice to experience that, you know, and then see everybody. And then going to the center recently and seeing, you know, it's like seeing old friends. You know, I just have to say, it's like seeing old friends. Um, and sometimes I look at someone and I just see their beauty, and it's very maybe secondary, or even never comes into my mind that they're, you know, physically older than me, but that Baba's fragrance, or like the beauty of what's capable, with the capacity that we have to share in his love, the bounty that's here, that's still here, you know, because the door will be closing, you know, not to say it's such a weird way, but you know, we have this opportunity to experience his that spring so widely, and you know, after the dropping of his body, you know, he did say that door of love will be getting, you know, smaller and smaller and smaller. Thus, we have so many chapters of meditation and discourses, and I won't get into that. But there's just so much beauty, and that's just what I have to say. I don't really know. I sometimes when I'm sitting here listening to people talk, I feel a tension, and maybe, you know, I sense like a beauty and a loveliness of people speaking, but I also sense a tension, like there's some, like we have to figure something out here, or like we have to do something, like something, like this words must be said to change, something must happen, and it feels like just the human angst of being alive. I mean, I feel that in all of us. It's not, I feel it immensely. Being at the center last month, I was like, it was horrifying because of the level of realizing I don't know, I'm gonna die. We're all gonna physically die. And as much as I hear about it in terms of, you know, in books and what I read from Baba, if I'm at a precipice of a tall building and I'm looking down, I'm going to feel that fear. It's very natural. There's nothing wrong with that. And I feel that, so we're all, I feel like I'm working with that myself, and I'm seeing others, you know, work with that. And I don't know, being older, being younger, I think the focus is, for me, I mean, it's like coming together and remembering him and speaking about him, remembering all of this is his will. You know, this is where I try to return to. But I don't know why I feel that tension of like, we have to figure something out, or something needs to change, or what happens when the older generation dies? Well, what happens? What do I have to do? And that's the ultimate thing, that even when Baba was in the body, people were dying around him and things were falling apart, and you know, he wouldn't stop it. Things were happening and he just wouldn't stop it, because he was like, this is what has to happen, and what will happen will happen. And so for me, I feel that tension too. Like, well, what will happen when somebody like Jeff Wolverton, who I love so deep, you know, Charles Haynes, and all these people I've come across that are just, I'm receiving, you know, Peter Nordine, just receiving so much information and love, and like, wow. I mean, I don't think I could pull a Peter Nordine or a, you know, I would give you all this information or whatever, but I do think that I will, you know, in time, if I live, you know, Baba willing, God willing, live to be an elder, then I don't know, I'll do it my way. And Baba, and that will be the way that I will know. I trust that it will be the way that Baba would have for me, for my particular, as Alan, because this, then I'll leave this form, and then who will I be now? You know, who will I be then? Anyways, I just had to say all that because I was feeling all that. Thank you for listening. Jai Baba.
Thank you, Alan. Jay Baba. All right. We're gonna take one more person who wants to share. Next up, Michael. Good evening, Michael.
Good evening, Jay Baba, everyone. I just wanted to say hello from Los Angeles. Got a West Coaster here in addition to Patty. Maybe a few other people are here on the West Coast. I have many, many thoughts. This has been such an interesting evening. I'm just going to offer two thoughts. One is, I'm thinking, Baba has blessed me with being involved with the young adults here in Los Angeles. So I have lots of exposure to young people. So for me, there doesn't feel like there's a divide, but I can see, depending on where you sit in your relationship to your encounters with young people, that it might feel a little bit different. That said, didn't Baba encourage us to connect with the childlikeness within inside of us? You know, this sweet, young, curious, adventurous, open-hearted, loving being that we all are. Marian reminded me of her story in Central Park with the children with their parents, and they're just running arms open across the grass. And aren't we all just running arms open towards Baba, regardless of our age, waiting for that embrace? Jay, beloved, may her Baba.
Wow, what a way to close.
Great.
Michael.
Thank you, Michael. I agree. Great way to close and wrap things up. Thank you to everyone who shared, listened in, and just was here. It was a really good discussion, beautiful evening. And
Rainey wants to say something.
We got to get Rainey in there.
Okay, we definitely have to get Rainey in there. It's not a party without Rainey. Rainey, go for it. Good evening.
I just wanted to say something very short that spans it all, as Michael was saying, especially as I have a young one for life in my perpetually young daughter, who actually teaches us these days, now that we're elderly, how to be sequential. But anyway, you know, there's all these things in the young and the old that are old and young. But one time we're on the bus leaving Marizad, and a 7-year-old is waving to Mani and crying because he has to leave her and staring at her, and suddenly he just turns around and says, "Is Mani Auntie young or is Mani Auntie old?" And that's how I wanted to appear all my life. Don't be limited by age. And within weeks, Mara told me, never, ever tell your age. I wished I hadn't. And so there you have it, the 7-year-old who doesn't know if the 65-year-old is young or old, because she's so youthful. We all need to be childlike and youthful as we age, particularly, in my opinion. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Jay Baba. Thank you, Rainey. Again, thank you everyone for joining tonight. So next week we will continue with our late night chat series in Jeff's absence. Margie and I will also be your co-hosts, and we have a special guest speaker. Margie, did you want to talk, give a few words about our guest speaker for next week?
Sure. So we have Aaron Hemian. So he's on the West Coast. So any West Coast Bob lovers, I'm sure you know him. He was at the Usahavas, and I really put him in the Rainbow Bridge category. He plays that role beautifully, and he has a really beautiful relationship with Baba, and is very much a part of the LA Sahavas. I've had him on I run a podcast. It's actually a Baba podcast, but I've had him on there. And when you ask how he wants to be introduced, he always will just be like, "Don't talk about my real job. Just talk about what I do in the Baba world," because it's like what his real job is so insignificant to him. So he'll be on next week, and then you guys can ask him any questions, and then hopefully this conversation will kind of continue with him. He wasn't able to make it tonight, but hopefully he'll be able to talk next week. But as we're closing on the topic of Aaron, I have this prayer. It was a prayer that Baba made the Mandali say every day of the new life. And a really funny story about this. I started a life coaching business, and it's called the New Life Coaching. And this was totally done under the radar. And so I'm just kind of giving it to Baba, and I get to use Sahavas, and Aaron, who's the guy who's going to come on next week, he said, I don't know why, Margie, but Baba just gave me this prompting to give you this prayer. And I have it written on this, or he gave it to me written on this little piece of paper, and you can see it says Margie ? Because he didn't know what it was, and it was the New Life prayer. And so I was hoping that we could just close out with that and then have a moment of silence and then talk to you guys all next week. Okay. I am not the body. I am not the mind. I am not this. I am not that. I am nothing but a living lie of that truth that is me. And unless the lie is dead, the truth cannot be. Happy Baba New Life Day, guys. Jai Baba.